Alrighty, well, without further ado, I will go ahead and get us started. So yes, you are here for the drama webinar for GSA 2026. If that sounds right, then you are in the right place. My name is Ren Durstock. I am GSA's alumni coordinator. So I help once everybody kind of participates in the program and you're looking for some of those scholarships that you get out of GSA, or other grant funding, things that you can participate in as an alumni of GSA. That's kind of where I come into play. But I'm also here during our recruitment session year round. I'll be at the summer program helping you guys out. And I am joined today by one of our adjudicators for the drama department here at GSA, and that is Darnell Benjamin. So Darnell, would you like to introduce yourself about who you are as an artist outside of GSA, in GSA, all of those good things?
Awesome. Hello there. My name is Darnell Pierre Benjamin. I am, as far as GSA is concerned, I am the chair of drama, meaning that I help coordinate things like the schedule. I work with the other instructors on coordinating things like anytime we're leaving the campus for like a field trip or community service. And I teach both the acting and the movement course classes. Outside of GSA, I am a movement specialist, a director, and a choreographer. I also teach at Northern Kentucky University in the School of the Arts. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me and my work.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting that we have our new host campus this summer that we'll talk about a little bit tonight because Darnell teaches at NKU and we will be at NKU this summer. So that's kind of a cool little cross collaboration with your world outside of GSA.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome. Really, really awesome. I'm loving to see how they're coming together and how former students who've been a part of GSA are coming to visit the campus at NKU to check it out as a college option. So it's really kind of cool to see the worlds come together.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, so to give you guys kind of an overview of the night, I'm going to talk about GSA kind of in a wider lens for a few minutes here, and then we are going to go through the drama applicant guide so we can get some tips and tricks and answer any questions that you all might have about the actual drama application as you go through those different steps. If you have any questions tonight about anything we talk about, and you're joining us through Zoom, then you can use the Q&A feature in Zoom to drop those questions, and we will have a little Q&A portion at the end of the night where we can go through all of those and answer any questions you guys may have. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. So you should be seeing a little Governor School for the Arts art form webinar PowerPoint here. Let me make sure that I can click through it. Yep. Like I said, this is one of our specific art form webinars, but we have 9 other art forms outside of drama that we are going to welcome to GSA this summer. A lot of these webinars have taken place so far, but we still have some coming down the pipeline. So those art forms started with creative writing back on Monday, October 13th, and all of the art form webinars that are listed in this first column here are available to view if you're interested in any of these art forms on our website right now. So we record all of these sessions and we post them to our website, to our YouTube, and usually to Facebook. If you want to go in and dive in with those adjudicators, looking at those applicant guides, so you can still access those even if you didn't get a chance to watch earlier this month. We do still have 3 more art form webinars coming down the pipeline after tonight. You can join me and one of our facilitators for visual art, Sean Starowitz, on Thursday night at 5 p.m. And then next week we will have our film and photo art form webinar November 3rd at 5 p.m. and our vocal music webinar on Thursday, November 6th at 7:30 p.m. All of these are in the Eastern time zone. So if you are in Central Time, just make sure to adjust for that. We also have GSA 101 webinars. We try to have one a month throughout this entire process. So our next one coming down the pipeline is going to be Monday, November 10th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then we also have one in December on Wednesday, December 3rd at 5 p.m. If you can't make either of those, we will also post these webinars to our website and to our YouTube page so you can get a better idea of what GSA looks like at a broader scope, excuse me. But if you don't attend one of these webinars, or you have any questions that aren't covered in one of these webinars, you can also contact us directly. So we've got a team of 4 here in Louisville that work for GSA year-round, around the clock, to help answer any questions you guys have. It's literally our job. We love talking to applicants that come through. If you have any questions, you can give us a call at this number on the screen. You can also send us an email to gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts.org, and that is Kentucky spelled all the way out, not just KY. Or you can send us a message on social media. So as the alumni coordinator, I also run our social media accounts. So if you feel more comfortable sending us a DM on Facebook or Instagram, I can answer your questions that way as well. And it'll be me that you're talking to. Moving on. What is GSA? So if this is your first kind of intro to GSA, we are a community of artists that are empowering Kentucky's next generation of creative leaders. And what that looks like for us is a 3-week summer program open to high school sophomores and juniors in the state of Kentucky. You will be living on a college campus. Like I mentioned, next year we are going to be moving from the University of Kentucky over to Northern Kentucky University in Highland Heights in the Northern Kentucky area. And that is a 3-week program, conservatory style training. It's very fun, but they are long days. They are rigorous training, and you can attend GSA in one of our 10 different art forms. What are those art forms? Great question. They start with architecture and design, creative writing, dance, drama, which is what we're here for tonight, film and photography. Our newest art form is graphic design. We'll be adding that to our repertoire this summer. Instrumental music, musical theater, visual art, and vocal music. So you can apply for up to 2 of these art forms, but you can only attend GSA for 1. You can make it all the way through the audition process, through final round auditions for up to 2 art forms, but ultimately you can only attend GSA 1 time for 1 art form. We want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to experience GSA, and this is one of the ways that we do that. Because it is a free program for everybody, we want to make sure that everybody who wants to attend GSA has the opportunity to do so, so long as they go through our audition process. So what does that application process look like? So it is a 2-step process. The first round is virtual only for everybody. So you'll be logging on to a platform that we use called Accepted, and you will be uploading all of your materials there, answering questions, giving us information about you. And then if you are chosen to progress past the first round of auditions to our final round of auditions, those are going to be hybrid. For drama, they will be in-person auditions. They're hosted at Northern Kentucky University in the spring, and it's kind of an in-person audition, ensemble building, interview process. We'll talk more about what that looks like a bit later tonight, but if you are auditioning for drama, just know that those second round auditions will take place in person in Highland Heights, Kentucky in March. Some items of note for the GSA application: GPA, ACT scores, SAT scores, none of that is required when you are applying for GSA. We want to know who you are as an artist. We don't really care about how great you are at taking tests. If you are great at taking tests, that's awesome. That'll get you some better scholarships if you do attend GSA. So it's always a good idea to keep your schoolwork kind of in your mind and always strive to do it as best as you can. But when you're applying for GSA, you don't need to include any of that information. We just want to know who you are as an artist. You must be a junior or sophomore currently to apply, and you can apply for up to 2 art forms. There is an application fee to apply for GSA. It's $35 for 1 art form, and if you did want to apply for 2, there's an additional $15 fee to add on that second application. But if you qualify for free or reduced lunch at school, if your entire district qualifies for free or reduced lunch, basically if you do not pay for lunch at school, you do not have to pay to apply for GSA. We never want finances to be a barrier for anybody to participate in GSA, so if you have any questions about that, let us know. But just a good rule of thumb is if you pay for lunch at school, then you kind of have to pay to apply for GSA, but if you don't worry about it. There's a little checkbox that you'll check on the GSA application. No questions asked. You don't have to upload any paperwork or get any double-step verification there. We just trust your word for it. So this is our application timeline. Our applications are already open. They opened on Friday, October 10th, 2025, and you have up until Sunday, January 18th, 2026 to submit your first application round. So that's all the materials we're going to talk about today, all the information about you, your references, things like that. You have until January 18th to apply. I will say, do not wait until January 18th to send in all of those application materials. You can start right now. We have folks who have already submitted their entire applications for part one already, which is really great. That's what we want to see, because what we don't want to happen is, God forbid, something to happen with the accepted platform where it gets overloaded or it's super slow because everybody's trying to submit their applications at the last point. Or say you rely on a studio space at school to film your self-tape your monologue here for drama, and you have a snow day and you can't get in and the application's going to close. We want to avoid all of those issues, right? So get started as soon as you can. You guys are already attending one of these webinars, so you are ahead of the game. Get started on this application whenever you can. If you've already started, that's awesome. And get that in before that January 18th deadline. Now, once we move on to the final round of auditions, those finalists are going to be announced on Friday, February 13th. So we'll let you know if you are going to be participating in that final round. And then those final round auditions will take place the weekend of March 12th to March 14th. We'll schedule that time with you guys, so you'll only need to be there for one day if you're only auditioning for one art form. But that is the weekend that you should block off as you're planning any maybe spring break trips or any other travel. Just try to keep those dates open because we want to have you in person if at all possible, if you move on to the final round of auditions. Alrighty, so that's all I have for the just overview of GSA here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna pull up our drama applicant guide. Let's see here. We'll share the drama applicant guide. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through this, give you guys a little bit of an overview of each of the steps to go through this document. That's going to kind of be your road guide here, your roadmap. And then Darnell, I will open it up to you if you have any helpful tips and tricks as we go through this, because you are going to be the one who is ultimately reviewing these applications. So everything starts out with a table of contents here. You're going to see a lot of photos as we go through this document. These are photos from drama students who have participated at GSA either this summer or maybe the year before. So it'll kind of give you another idea of what it might look like when you're joining our program. And if you ever want to see any more photos of this, there's also a hyperlink on this page here to view some more program photos from GSA 2025. An overview of the drama program. It involves intensive actor training with an emphasis on Stanislavski-based acting techniques, vocal production for the actor, and physical actor training, moving the actor towards expressive storytelling, creative collaboration with an ensemble, and developing original devised material and promoting positive change through theater. Drama students receive instruction in acting, movement, and voice and speech, with an emphasis on monologues, scene study, and creative original devised works. So that's kind of a lot. Darnell, what does that look like on a daily basis for the drama classroom at GSA?
Yeah. As was mentioned, we overall cover three different parts, right? We work with the voice, meaning that's everything from warming up, proper etiquette for taking care of your vocal health, but also articulation. And then we also have movement, which is going to be how do you explore different ways to tell stories with your body. And a lot of times, I know if when we're looking at what Christy does a lot of work with mask work. I do a lot of work more so with the Michael Chekhov technique, which is connection of mind and body and the viewpoints. And then the last element is going to be acting. So throughout the day, you're going to have multiple studio sessions, and those studio sessions are all going to consist of working with all three of us throughout the day. At maybe in the morning, for example, we in the morning we'll start with morning announcements. That's where everybody at GSA is coming together. And then after we finish that, at 10 o'clock from 10 to 1, we'll have our first studio of the day. And so from 10 to 1, you're going to work with one of the three of us or all three of us, depending on the day. Then you'll have a lunch break from 1 to 2. Then from 2 to 4 to 6, you're going to have a second studio of the day. And then we have dinner from 6 to 7. And then 7 to 10, we'll have a third studio. Or on some days, we might have something like a field trip planned or community service. Or at times, there might be a performance that all GSA is welcome to experience. So the days kind of change overall overall, but for the most part, you can always expect there's going to be a studio at some point in the day where you're going to be working on either voice, movement, and or acting. And we do give, like, for example, as was mentioned, this is very rigorous. So you're going to be active a great deal of the time. Now, granted, we also understand that everybody has different abilities and different sort of maxes in their capacity. So we're also going to listen to your needs. And if you need to have 10-minute break off to the side, we offer 10 minutes throughout the time. So you're not going nonstop the entire time. But I do want to make sure you understand that it is a day that's going oftentimes from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it is always advised to come well rested and ready to play because the core of what we do in drama is definitely ensemble building, which is why in the audition process, which we'll probably talk more about that later, you're going to notice in the audition process, it's very much about ensemble building, about we want to see how you work well with others. So you got to be ready for that because that's a whole day of doing that for 3 weeks.
Absolutely, yeah. Theater is a very rigorous and collaborative art form, so those two adjectives definitely fit in well with our drama program here. One thing I will note on this page, like I said, there's a hyperlink to some drama program photos from last year, but we also include a how-to video guide for taping your audition. So as you are preparing to submit your monologue for the drama audition, you can reference this video if you want a refresher on what a self-tape might look like, or if you've never filmed a self-tape before and you really need a how-to guide, we have that for you guys here as well. We'll talk more about those monologues in just a minute here, but I did want to flag that as it was at the beginning of this little document here. So, the preliminary round for applications. So everything that we talk about in this section, that is going to be a part of the package that is due by January 18th. So this is what you are going to be working on for that preliminary round of applications. Everything here will be uploaded to Accepted. We also link Accepted through this document. So if you look at this on our website, you'll have all the information you need right in this one place. There are a number of things that we ask for in this preliminary round. And the first thing that we'll talk about are our recommendation forms. So we always recommend that you do this first because it's not completely in your control when everything is uploaded. We want you to identify 2 people in your life who can complete recommendation forms in support of your GSA application. So they can speak to who you are as an artist, as a student, as an actor, performer, whatever word you want to use. This can be a drama teacher that you have at school, an English teacher you have at school. If you do community theater, this can be one of your directors or teachers in that setting. Or it can just be somebody in your church, a guidance counselor, anybody in your community outside of your immediate family who can speak to who you are as an artist. You can ask them to speak on behalf of you as a recommender for your GSA application. What this looks like is you will submit their email address in Accepted as a part of your application, and we will send them an automated email to fill out a form. They don't need to write a letter, format it in that type of way. They just need to answer some questions for us about who you are as an artist, and that will be sent to them. You don't have to touch it, but we do recommend you follow up with them saying, hey, 1, can I put your email down? 2, have you had a chance to fill this out yet prior to the application deadline? And just make sure that they are on top of your application as you are on top of your application. Yeah, Darnell, anything you are looking to hear from these recommenders?
I say the main things to consider is yes, we want to know about how your work is, right? We want to know how you work as an actor, but we're also particularly interested in what is your character? How do you work with a group? Because we love talent, right? We want all of you to be talented without a doubt. But we also want to know, can you work well with others? Can you what is your how do you respond to feedback? How do you respond to being maybe pushed a little bit in the work? Because again, we keep repeating the word rigorous, but because of it asks a lot of you. So we want to know, what is your stamina like? We want to know how do you apply the work to also just your life outside of just performing on stage? How does the world of theater and its intention toward empathy affect how you go through the world? Because so much of GSA is about ensemble and coming together as a group. We want to know that, can you do that? So make sure that's in there somewhere. Now also be honest about it too, because we all have our limits, right? We all have our limits. So just we want to we want to learn about you. Just don't forget that in the midst of talking about your work as an actor, make sure we understand who you are as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. One more thing I will say as we're talking about these recommenders, if you are applying for two art forms here at GSA and you're using the same recommendations for both of those applications, those recommenders will have to fill out two forms, one for drama and one for film and photo or graphic design or whatever it is you decide to apply for. So keep that in mind if that's the case, because these are two separate applications if you decide to go down that road. The next little section of our application here is going to be a personal, short, emphasis on short, essay. It's a 250 word max. It's really, really not that long, I promise you guys. But this just gives us a chance to see who you are as an artist from your own personal sense. So we'll get that from your recommenders, but we also want to hear from you directly. So the question that we ask you to answer in an essay format is how can / why should the art form you are applying in be of importance to your community or society as a whole. So we want to hear why it is you do theater, why you're involved in drama, and why you think it is important to your community or the society that you are in. We want open, honest, authentic responses. We want to get to know you, and you'll be uploading this as a document and accepted. So Darnell, any words on that?
No, and I apologize for bringing this up, but something that occurred to me is, well, I'll talk about this later, but more than anything, yeah, just share more of who you are because, granted, in the reference letter, right, that's where they're talking about you. We want to hear that firsthand perspective. How do you see yourself?
Mhm.
Because we're looking for ultimately how aware are you of how you present and how you go through the world, right? So we're looking for that firsthand experience.
Absolutely. So yeah, you'll have a chance to talk about that in a written format through this essay, but the next section is going to be a personal question video. So we want to hear how you can get that into words on a page, but also we want to hear you talk about yourself as an artist, just kind of off the cuff and in a video format so we hear your voice and we hear how you speak and communicate. It's a very similar question. The question that we ask you in this section of the application is why is the art form you are applying in important to you? What are the goals for yourself as an artist in this art form? So, what is it that you're looking to achieve being a performer or being involved in theater in the future? Again, honest and authentic responses. And we ask that you start this video by saying, hi, my name is Ren Durstock, and this is why I think drama is an important art form. These are my goals in the drama art form moving forward. This is what I want to accomplish at GSA or in my future as a performer. So this gives you a chance to kind of communicate with your voice, offer some inflection that you might not get on the page, and just talk to us in a very short 90-second max video format. Darnell, any words on this?
Particularly with this, my suggestion to you all is give yourself a quick little outline of what it is you know you want to make sure you say, because 90 seconds is very quick, right? So give yourself an outline, but don't write out everything. Allow yourself to just be in the moment. That's what we're looking for, your nuanced response to it. So don't feel like you have to write out something and say that. That's what the essay is for. Instead, we want to see you in action, right? And not in character, but you as you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so after that little 90-second video, there are going to be some arts form specific questions as a part of the application. These are more short form, they're going to be on accepted. So before we get into the monologue, kind of meat and potatoes of the application, is there anything else kind of supplemental to that that you want to talk about, Darnell?
No, because I think we covered everything, unless anybody has a question.
I didn't see anything come through on the chat, but if they do have a question, we'll get to that in the Q&A section at the end. But let's talk about the monologue. So yes, this is kind of the main part of the drama application, in my opinion, as somebody who has not attended GSA for drama, but it's definitely the thing that we get the most questions about, which is why we want to spend the max amount of time talking about it tonight. So This is a video monologue, 90 seconds. We ask that you film it without kind of splicing it or editing it in any way because we do want to see it as if this were an audition that you are submitting. So you'll start with a slate. If you're not familiar with a slate, you might say, "Hi, my name is Ren Durstock, and I will be reading for the role of Abigail Proctor in The Crucible." I don't know if that's her name. I think it's Elizabeth Proctor now that I say that out loud. I'm showing my theater kid roots here. But once you give that slate, you'll then go into your monologue, give yourself some time to get into character, and perform your piece. Some of the things that we should note about the monologue: it should be spoken by a character from a produced, published play that you have read entirely, rather than a piece of poetry or prose, or maybe one of those monologues that come from a book that's 101 Great Monologues for Young Actors type of situation. We do want this to be a part of a complete work so that you have given circumstances to fall back on and to pull from for that character. It should be an active monologue, not just telling a memory or a story from the past. So, a person speaking about a present situation that's happening. We want these to be active situations. We should memorize these monologues, absolutely. And they also shouldn't rely on props, costumes, makeup, any other technical elements that you could possibly add in there, or a dialect that you might need to fall back on. We want to see who you are as a performer, even if you don't necessarily relate 100% with this character. We also say that it should not contain material or language that is unnecessarily vulgar. We try to keep things at around a PG-13 rating here at GSA, so your application should follow suit in that. And it should be a character close to your own age. So we like to say that 12 to 25 age range is really where we want to stick in for most high school performers. But you can portray a character of any gender identity as long as those guidelines are followed. Is there anything I missed there, Darnell? Anything else you want to kind of give your 2 cents on with the monologue?
You said everything, but I just want to reiterate. I call it my five. So make sure that the monologue has a beginning, middle, and end. Make sure that it is active. Make sure the character is clear. Make sure there's a clear point of view from the character. And then make sure it's you. I think what oftentimes gets missed is that you pick a monologue maybe that you think, oh, this is a cool one to do, and it's going to be a great challenge. In an audition scenario, I always suggest to people, don't do the monologue that's the challenge for you. Do something that you know you can deliver on that is so in your wheelhouse. Because we can stretch you in different directions at GSA, but in your audition, you want to give exactly the core of who you are and what you can do well. So don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
Trust yourself. That's what I got.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want you to feel confident in your audition and to give us something that you feel confident in. And kind of in that, I know one of the tips that I always give my theater students as somebody who lives in the theater world outside of GSA is don't rush through this monologue. This is your time to really show us who you are as a performer. We want to see all of those little microaggressions and moments that you have with the monologue. And at the beginning, we want to make sure you have enough time to settle into the character and then transition out of that character at the end before the video ends. So don't feel the need to immediately stop recording and kind of rush out and cut it short. I know that when I was performing, I had a tendency to do that. So make sure you are having a full experience with this monologue and giving it your all in those 90 seconds.
All of that, I just want to add one more thing. With that in mind, we would rather you do a monologue that's, let's say, for example, you have 90 seconds. I would rather see you do a 60-second monologue really, really well than have to rush through a monologue that's cutting it too close. So
Absolutely.
actually, it's a better idea to go for something that's less than the time it actually is. Go for something well under 90 seconds. So that way you can actually sit with it. Exactly what Ren was saying. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah, it
rush.
doesn't
Don't
have to be a
rush.
90
This is
second video.
not at
If
all.
it's a little bit shorter than that, that's totally fine. It's just a max of 90 seconds. Alrighty, so let's see here. Just some ideas to keep in mind as you are recording your video, some kind of technical things. Make sure you're recording your monologue in an interior space that's free from interruptions, maybe some distracting noises, things like that. Shoot at eye level, something where we can see who you are and it's not kind of a weird, awkward angle that is leaving us wondering what you are really looking like and what face you're making for this acting choice. And don't speak directly to the camera like I am right now. You can kind of pick a point point off the camera to make your scene partner or whoever it is you're speaking to in this scene, and choose that as your anchor as opposed to looking straight down the barrel of the lens like that. And again, we ask that you don't edit or splice the video. We want to see your performance from beginning to end. We want to see who you are as a performer and not different cuts and pieces of who you might be as a performer. But make sure you record the video to make sure you can be seen and heard. We want to hear everything you have to say and see everything you have to portray in front of us. So review that video before you upload it to Accepted, just so we can make sure that we are seeing what you intend us to see as a part of this performance.
One more video suggestion.
Mhm.
So when it comes down to the videos, another thing to think about is, so when you press record, and when you press record and you step back, right, and then you finish your monologue and you're coming to come forward, a tiny edit we absolutely accept is if you want to edit that beginning and the end of you walking to and from, try to make it as clean as possible. Obviously, I know not everybody has like the skills of editing, but right now it's been made so easy to where you're usually, even if you're recording on your phone, it doesn't matter what you're recording on, you're typically easily able to just take out that little moment of you walking to and from. Because what that does, that gives us even more clarity in, oh, this person really did their homework. So all those little things like that, it helps to lift up your work. So consider those tiny edits at the beginning and end, but nothing internal.
Yeah, I think they're calling that the millennial pause nowadays. So you can definitely edit out your millennial pause if you have one of those in your self-tape. Um, but yeah, so that's something to keep in mind for both the monologue and our optional next video that we're going to talk about. So there's an optional element to the drama application here, and that is a special skills video of about 60 seconds long. So if you have a special skill that you can perform, like a dialect, singing and dancing, you have a stand-up routine, or you have an acrobatics routine, roller skating, anything like that, as long as you're being safe, we'd love to see that too. We want to get to know who you are as a full-fledged performer. So if there's something that you want to share with us, absolutely feel the ability to do so in this special skills video. You do not have to submit this though. If you just want to submit your monologue, that's totally fine by us. This is not scored or measured against the criteria that we're going to talk about next. So if you choose not to submit this video, it's not going to be held against you. It's just another way for you to stand out in your performance and give us something to remember who you are as a performer by. I don't know, Darnell, if you can speak to any previous special skills that you've seen in the past or anything that really stood out to you on that.
I love the special skills video. It's always my favorite part to look at because it gives us more insight into you. And don't think that it has to be at all theater related. We have people in the past who crocheted. One video that really stood out to me is there was a student who performed the opening of Rent, but did it with all three different instruments.
Okay.
So, and edited it all to where it all came together. It was the most insanely unexpected video. Granted, I'm not saying anybody has to go that hard. You don't have to do that much work. However, if there is something that you do that's art related, we love to know that. And the reason why we like to know that is because that same student who played all those different instruments, we found a way for him to play instruments in his pieces that we did. There was a movement piece where he was able to play with a band. So we will find ways, if we can, to incorporate your other skills. So if you have some other skill, oh, we had a student who was good at flips. So he wound up doing some acrobatics during a movement piece. So there are so many ways we can incorporate your skills if you share them. And we know you have them. So share away. We watch
Absolutely.
everything. So please share.
Yeah. And it's always fun to see something unique in an application, right? Like it's a good kind of refresh as we're going through all of these. So I can definitely attest that that will probably be some of my favorite videos to watch as well. Alrighty, so that's kind of the preliminary round of applications. So now we're going to move on to talking about the final round. If you are chosen to progress past this primary round of auditions and join us in person at NKU in March, this is what you can expect. So there's going to be a pre-review questionnaire that you'll fill out through Accepted, just like round one, just giving us more information about your previous experience in your art form, if you've taken any classes at school about drama, if you do community theater, anything like that. and also just some of your favorite artists, your college and career goals, if you choose to, progress as a performer, or if you view this as something that really sets your soul on fire, but might not be your primarily money maker, that's totally fine as well. But this will just give us an idea of who you are as a person and give us an idea of what kind of questions we can ask you when we're doing our little interview section during final round auditions. So you'll submit that before you get to NKU in March. And once you arrive on campus on Thursday, Friday, whenever you choose to join us, you're going to participate in a group audition. So this is not going to be you performing your monologue again. You're actually going to participate in an ensemble-based theater exercise, some little improv exercises, and a group interview where we learn more about who you are. And Darnell, since you're in the room, is there anything that you want to share about what that day might look like?
The number one thing is so when you show up, you're going to be in different groups. We usually have people in groups from 6 to 8 people. And what we do is we learn all of your names in that room. And of course, because we watched so many of your videos, we've been sitting on you. So we kind of already have an idea of who you are, but we will officially be able to connect. And what we do is Christy and I will do different exercises. All of this is to test your ability to yes and. Can you go with exercises and play? And we're looking also for attitudes. Are you able to get feedback and make an adjustment and not, I guess, internalize or take it personally? Because so much of the work is personal, right? But when we give feedback, that's just our way of saying, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And we're looking at how do you work with us? Is it so know that that whole experience is mostly about we want to see how you work because seeing your work is one thing, but we want to now see how you work, which is going to be the entire purpose of the in-person audition. And you're going to be with other people who are auditioning. So something to keep in mind is that don't feel like you have to compare yourself to anybody else in the room because everybody's just as nervous as you are because everybody's in the experience together. So it's a space of we just want to see you. That's really what it is and how you work.
Absolutely. Yeah, and on comparison too, I mean, we try to have a very diverse group of students in the drama department. So if you're trying to be exactly like somebody else in the room, that's not really going to help us because we want to have different experiences and different perspectives in the room. So definitely showcase who you are and your individuality once we get to this section of the application. So, looking at the application process as a whole, there is some criteria that we judge on, and we want to let you guys know what that criteria is so you can keep it in mind when you are making your monologues, filling out these questions, making your videos, things like that. So, I kind of separate these into three separate sections, and Darnell, I'll let you kind of plug in as I read these so you can give specifics of what it is that you're looking for. But I view the first three as kind of the craft of the criteria. So that's the acting, the voice, and the movement. We want these creative choices, breath support, clarity, pacing, and just kind of your expressiveness in your movement, the freedom of movement that you exhibit. Is there anything that you are particularly looking for in those three areas, or do you really separate them when you're thinking about it?
Actually, I see them as all one unit,
Mhm.
but there are elements of that things where we how we can separate them. But the number one thing that ties all three of those together is breath. Are you breathing? I'm going to be looking at that. Are you breathing? Because breath is our life force, right? When we breathe, it allows us to actually move freely. When we breathe, it allows our voice to open up. When we breathe, it allows our acting to be inspired and nuanced. So think of breath as not just a voice thing, breath is everything. So that's something I want you to really think about as you're working on your material. How are you connecting to your breath while you're doing the monologue? Now, as far as the acting is concerned, I just want you to tell the truth. I think there is this myth that acting is telling a lie and telling it really well. Acting is actually telling the truth because I'm not going to get into a lot of like amygdala, vagus nerve theory, but ultimately, the simple answer, what I'm trying to get at is if you are actively telling the truth in the moment, your body will believe it. So it is actually telling the truth that we're looking for with the acting. And with movement, you might wonder, what does movement mean? And if I could just expand on that a little bit, what movement is about, we're looking for character, one. Does your movement reflect the world of the character and what's going on in that moment? Um, Meaning, for example, if your character is singing about being in love is an expansive thing, and love is a thing that opens up a person. So if you're tight within that, then it comes the question of, well, are you in your body actively in this moment? And that's something that we might take off points for. Whereas if you are actively breathing and allowing your body to expand in that moment of love where the character is, and love, I don't just mean romantic. This could be friend love, this could be parental love, but like ultimately, we're looking at how are you connected to your voice, your body, and the acting through breath. That's usually the core of the thing that I think brings them all together is breath. And we oftentimes don't think about breath like because it's a constant. We just, our bodies do it. But notice how, if you've just finished doing an audition, notice how you breathe after the audition. Can you feel suddenly your body relax? That's probably because you were tense during the audition and then suddenly you were able to release that. So try to find a way to commit to the action of whatever is happening in your monologue, but not tense up. Allow your body to breathe.
Absolutely. I love that. Um, in the second section of this criteria, we're moving on to number 4 here. We want to see the dedication to your art form, your growth, and your community. So I think this goes hand in hand with what we're talking about in the final round of auditions, but also in some of those questions that we ask you as a part of your preliminary application about why your art form is important to you, how you see yourself fitting into your art form, things like that. Is there anything else particularly that comes to mind when you think of dedication to art form and community, Darnell?
Well, I think that speaks for itself, but I mean, if there's anything I would add to that, it's it's understanding that no one person can create a show or a scene. And even whenever you are independently working on something, let's say, for example, a one-person show, they still have a director. They still will have a lighting designer, a sound designer. So it takes a village. And what we're looking for with that is how much are you willing and interested in making it more than just about you, because we all love to be in the spotlight, right? But can you also step back and give a moment to somebody else? So that's what we're looking for with that.
Absolutely. And that goes hand in hand with our little final criteria point here, the ensemble attitude. And that's something that we really look for in the final round specifically because they're group auditions. So what does that ensemble attitude look like to you, Darnell?
You know, I think a lot of it looks like what I just said. And if I want to just go back just to the dedication to art form, the other side to that is preparation,
Mm.
right? How much are you prepared? And what we mean by that is we're going to give you assignments over the course of the 3 weeks. And are you showing up with those assignments completed? That's everything from memorization of material to if you said you were going to work on something, like if we give you a worksheet, we want you to show up with that worksheet completed. So ultimately, I kind of conflated them because ensemble attitude really more is about the whole. Are you able to commit to working with everyone? Because of course, we've had some challenges in the past with that, but some of the best examples are when we watch. Our favorite thing in the world is when we can divide you all in groups and you all work in group projects and you work well and create amazing things. So it's the willingness to being able to work with other people and just give a yes and, which is not always easy to do because you want your idea to go forward. But sometimes we have to look at what is the larger picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And that's what we're looking for with ensemble attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And with ensemble attitude, that preparation goes hand in hand because you want to make sure that you are supporting your other ensemble members by being prepared and having your section covered so that you can trust them to have their section covered and make sure that everybody is working towards the same goal. So, yeah, all these things definitely go hand in hand with each other. That's why they're all a part of one application criteria. But there are little specific things that we can talk about for each one Absolutely.
Ensemble attitude, the reason why we bring this up, why it matters, is because we do group ensemble work. For example, Bill Case, who teaches voice, he tends to do these large vocal pieces where different people have different lines. And if you're not showing up prepared, then that messes with the progression of the piece. So that's where that all comes through. And also, even ensemble can be two people. So if you're doing scene work and your scene partner's off book, but you're not off book, that kind of can get in the way of the work. So it's all of that. That's how that applies, like practically.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of the overall criteria we look for, but we do have some specific tips and tricks here at the end of the applicant guide for specific things that we're looking for. And we touched on a lot of this already, but just to kind of go back to some of the things we talked about, we have some general tips about your interview, audition, monologue, things like that. We want to get to know you as an artist, let your personality shine through. Be sure you're reading the play and choosing a monologue that is from a complete play so you can fall back on some of those given circumstances and have more information about your character's perspective, their objectives, things like that. We obviously want you to memorize the monologue. And don't rush through everything. Yeah, we talked about a lot of this already. So make sure you show up prepared, you dress appropriately, and do things with intention and care. Darnell, is there anything else that we haven't talked on yet that you are really interested in talking about? Also, if you want to touch on this overdone material, what it is maybe you're not looking for.
Oh, okay. In this world of access to the internet, one of the challenges is if you type in something like, let's say, monologues for a young woman, uh, you're going to come up with the same list of things that a lot of other people are going to come with. So my what I always suggest to people, there's a thing called, so under this is American Theater Magazine. American Theater Magazine makes this list of top 10 produced plays and playwrights. And you get to see all of what's popular right now. And oftentimes that tells you it's timely, it's what we're talking about in the moment in the arts. My challenge to you all is to read more plays. It takes time, it takes effort, but the more plays you read, the more you end up learning which playwrights speak to you, which types of materials speak to you, and you're able to pull from a diverse stock of material. Because what oftentimes happens is that people type online what they're looking for and they end up showing up with monologues that about seven other people also did. So make sure that you're doing the work to really find material that's unique, that is particularly for you, and avoid, like, for example, I would always say avoid playwrights like Gabriel Davis is a playwright, I'll say. He writes monologues, not plays. So as a result, the monologue will have no context of character. And oftentimes these monologues are not active. In other words, it's a character philosophizing versus actively doing something, because the snippet of material is not connected to anything else. So as a result, you can't go anywhere with it. So I would say, as much as possible, I know it sounds difficult, but avoid just typing in the internet to search for something. Go to the library, sit in the plays section. You'd be surprised at how many plays you will find out there. But why I mentioned to look into the American Theater Magazine list is because it'll give you insight into what are the playwrights that are writing right now? Who are these people? And you can look into them and their work and find incredible catalogs of what they're doing. I have some favorite playwrights, and part of why I have favorite playwrights is because I was exposed at one point to one of their plays, which made me look into their other plays, and I realized, oh wow, this person speaks to me. So know that you don't have to just rely on the internet. Sometimes it takes showing up to the library where it's free and just finding as many plays that speak to you as possible. Now, one way you can use the internet effectively when looking for material, you can look generally plays for young women, and then you could find a list of plays, and of that list, go and like find the copies of those plays and start to just thumb through and see if you can find a monologue. And if you find a monologue, then what you can do, if you find a monologue you really like, read the play, check the play out, and learn the material. But Yeah, my suggestion is to not just rely on the first thing the internet shows you. Really try and dig to find the right thing because you have from now until January. So you have ample time. Don't wait until January, but I'm just saying you have quite a bit of time. So use that time to find material that really speaks to you. Also, use your resources. Ask your instructors. If you have a theater instructor or somebody in the theater community that you know and appreciate and respect, like ask them for direction and help because you'll find better information probably from them than you would just typing it in.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
because
know
they're
that was a
going
bit
through
of a
this.
needy response, but I think it's an important one.
Absolutely, I agree. And I'm very happy that you provided all that insight because that's ultimately what we want to hear. And if you're reaching out to your resources and your theater teachers and things like that, a lot of times they're watching just as many auditions, if not more, than we're watching. So they know what they don't want to see. So they're not going to tell you to go down that route. But in the applicant guide here, we also have some tips on how to search for monologues, how to find things. So you can reference these as well, but everything that Darnell said, I would 100% back. Reading less popular plays, going and seeing theater if you have the chance, just experiencing everything you can to try and find inspiration. Because we also want to see stuff that you connect with. You know, if there's a monologue that you find that is not as well known and you really, really relate to that character or you love what it is they're saying, we want to hear that and we want to hear why it's important to you. So, yeah, all great things.
Also, another thing, if for example, accessibility, we all know that theater is expensive, right?
Hmm.
So most theaters, they're always open to volunteers. You could be an usher. There's so many different ways you can get in to see theater. So you got to just get a little creative, find the theaters you love who are doing the work you want to see, and ask them if you could volunteer. And oftentimes you'll get a ticket to be able to do that. And a lot of times they'll give you two tickets. So yeah, jump on those resources.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're coming to the end of the applicant guide here. So this is just kind of a refresh of our timeline. Like I said, applications are already open, so you can start getting that work in, finding those monologues, recording everything you can, so long as you get everything in by January 18th, 2026. So hopefully, once we get through all of our applications, if you have been announced as a finalist for our final round auditions that take place in the spring, we'll let you know of that announcement on February 13th. And then you will join us just about a month later, March 12th through 14th at NKU to participate in those group auditions. Hopefully, once we get to the end of that line, we'll be announcing our list of accepted students and the alternates as well on April 10th. And then our summer program will be taking place from June 7th to June 27th, 2026. We only have one session this year now that we're moving campuses and things are shifting. So just keep those dates in mind because we will not have a second session like we have in years prior that takes place in July. All of our students will be joining us on campus in June this year. So those are those dates. But one more, little thing here, help and support. If there's any questions that didn't get answered tonight, and we'll hop over to Q&A next. But if you think of something tonight after we already log off, please, please, please feel free to reach out to GSA admin. That's what we're here for. Again, our office hours, our email and our phone are here on the applicant guide. And if you're also having any tech support needs with the accepted platform, like you're having issues logging in or getting your materials uploaded, you're getting hit with an error message, anything like that, you can reach out to Accepted and their wonderful team as well. We can always try to help you. We're not the most tech savvy people in the world, but we spend a lot of time on Accepted, so a lot of times we can figure out what the issue is that you're having. So feel free to talk to us, talk to Accepted, anybody you want to ask questions. We are happy to help you guys as you go through this application process. There is one thing that I always like to say once we get to the end of these webinars, and that is that we want to see what you have to say. We want to see your applications. We are so excited to learn more about you guys as individual artists. But at the end of the day, GSA is just one opportunity for you guys in a vast, vast network of the arts in Kentucky and beyond. I myself am from Kentucky, but I am not a GSA alum, and here I am, a part of this wonderful community. So even if you get through this entire process and ultimately you don't end up joining us this summer, that should not discourage you from pursuing the arts, from anything in the future, because GSA is just one opportunity. We are not the end all be all. We love to have our community of artists, and we think very highly of everybody that gets to join us. But at the end of the day, we're just one opportunity. So that's my little spiel here. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so you can see our faces again. And let me see if we had the chance to get any Q&As. Looks like we got one question here. Yeah, so our one question that we have in Q&A is, I saw that a good place to look for monologues is playscripts.com. Is there a specific search that I need to obtain? So if people are looking online, Darnell, on Playscripts or another service like that, what do you recommend they search up?
A lot of them, like newplayexchange.com is another one. That one you pay for. But a lot of times what they'll have is options for you to sort of, what word am I looking for?
Refine?
Uh, huh?
Refine the search or filter,
Yes.
things like that?
It's a filter. Yes, that's the word I
Mhm.
was looking for. They will provide filters for you to be able to say for male or teen. So a lot of times you can do all of that. Now, I will tell you, a lot of them will show you just scripts and it'll be tons and tons of options, tons and tons of options, which is totally fine. Um, to help you really whittle it down, I would say lean into, because sometimes they'll also have little things like fantasy or drama or comedy. So if you know that you're a person who you thrive on comedy, you love doing comedy, whittle the search down to comedy with all the other refinements of whatever gender or whatever time period also too, if you're interested in that. I always tell people avoid if you can super classical stuff like Shakespeare unless you feel like you really have a good handle of it. Um, but yeah, as much as you can refine the search down, that's what I would suggest doing. And it can be tedious. I'm telling you right now, it really can be very tedious, but that's the work it takes because when you do that work in advance, that means you will then have good material. And I always tell people find material that you know you can do for a little bit. So once you learn that monologue, you can do it probably 6 years from now because you won't age too far out of it. And you all are young enough here to where you'll be able to find material that you can do even as like up to like 20 years old, a lot of material. So my suggestion more than anything is to refine the search as much as you can. But even after that, you're still going to have to wade through. Imagine it's kind of like going through a sales bin, a clearance bin.
Mm,
If you want to find the good deal, you kind of have to dig.
very,
So
very
think about
true.
it that way.
Absolutely, yeah. Alrighty,
And
so
let
I
me know
think that,
if I answered that or not, because if you want more clarity in a direction or so, like if there's a specific thing you know you're interested in, I might even be able to help give you a little feedback on where you could look for that.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was our one Q&A question. So I'll kind of ramble a little bit here to see if any last minute ones come through. But Darnell, thank you so much for joining us. I know that this is kind of a lot to go through, so it's always great to have somebody who has the perspective of being in the room, who's going to be reading through these applications. So thank you for joining us and thank you for all of your perspective on somebody who has been with us for a couple of years now. You're a great member of the community as a working actor and an educator outside of this. So it's always great to hear what you have to say about theater and about drama. So yeah, we're looking forward to another great summer. And if anyone else has any questions that they didn't get a chance to ask tonight, please direct them to GSA admin. We're always in constant communication with Darnell and our other adjudicators for drama. So we're always happy to kind of provide that method of communication there and open that avenue there. We're here to help you guys with this application. We don't want you to be flying blind. We really want to help you guys be the best auditionees that you can be. So feel free to reach out. But yeah, any closing thoughts, Darnell?
The last thing I'd say is now I will admit I'm a little anxious to say this, but I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
Theater is built on conflict. Plays can't exist without a conflict, right? So, my encouragement to you all is to find material that really speaks to you and that offers risk.
Mm,
And risk is not meaning like, don't like, I don't know, don't do a magic trick with fire. No,
sure.
we don't, unless you have experience with that. But what risk is, it's finding material that really speaks to you that shares a little bit about your perspective. This could be material like, for example, It could be there's so many alternative writers also. So don't feel like you have to just rely on the standard writers that we know, like Neil Simon and August Wilson and Arthur Miller, and like feel free to play. We love to see material from new playwrights that we might not know about. I mean, I could throw some names. Lauren Gunderson is a great playwright that writes really cool stuff. Kate Hamill is doing all kinds of cool adaptations of work. Brandon Jacobs Jenkins writes incredible work. Um, uh, 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 Amy Herzog.
Mhm.
So I could write about like I could talk about like a ton of these people who all are writing really cool new things. So if you want to try something, try typing in contemporary playwrights that are popular, and you'll find so much cool material. Now, granted, still make sure that you're keeping this age appropriate because a lot of their material is speaking to more adult things, but sometimes there'll be kids. Like I think one play that I think deals with some fascinating stuff with youth is well no I'm gonna let y'all find it yourselves, but ultimately what I'm getting at is don't be afraid to do a playwright that you think we may not know.
Right.
Or if you feel like you can craft something solid, we're open to you also. If you want to, if you also are interested in writing, write your own material. Write your own material. Avoid movies, I'd say, screenplays, only because there's the danger of you performing what they did. So make sure it's not material that you saw. Instead, make it material that you read and you got to vision yourself and create the world yourself. Does that make sense?
Makes sense
I
to
hope that
me.
makes sense.
So yeah,
I hope it
again, if
does.
there's anything that's unclear, we're always happy to answer questions. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. So amazing. Well, thank you again, Darnell. I'm sure we're going to continue this conversation far after just the first preliminary art form webinar here. But yeah, if there's any other questions, I'll direct them your way, and we'll have a great rest of our night.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.